The next episode opens with Zagan waking up from a nightmare. He opens his eyes to see Neffy in front of him. Neffy then tells him that breakfast is ready, leaving surprised and asking if she was the one who made it. She says yes, and Zagan asks her if she has been waiting for him to wake up, which she says yes again. Before anything else, Zagan decides to greet Neffy, and this time, he is able to put out a proper greeting, to which Neffy also replies. They get to the dining hall, and Zagan is shocked as to how neat the place is. The dining room was scattered and in no shape before, but Neffy has cleaned it all by herself. She has also prepared a meal which leaves Zagan wondering just how one person can manage all of this. When it is time to eat, Zagan notices that Neffy is not dishing her own food too. He asks her why this is, and she says she only prepared a meal for him and didn't include hers. Zagan then tells her that she needs to cut the meal in half so that she can get something to eat. Neffy counters this by saying there is no seat for her to sit on. Zagan then replies and tells her that she should come and sit on his lap, which sends Neffy into the dreamland. She wants to refuse this offer, but Zagan insists, and when she realizes that Zagan is not ready to give up, she obliges. Neffy sits on Zagan's lap, and embarrassingly, the two start to feed each other. This feels so awkward, but they continue with it nonetheless. The two even talk about doing this another time again. Days later, Neffy finds Zagan in his study and asks him what he is studying. She further asks him what the drawings that are on the floor mean. He asks her if what she is looking at is different from elven sorcery, and Neffy replies that she doesn't know how to practice sorcery. This comes as a surprise to Zagan because Neffy has mana that is more than the average person. Nonetheless, he decides to explain to him how sorcery works. He then explains to him that the drawings she is looking at have powers. He doesn't know where the powers come from. It might be from demons or from the divine being, but what he knows is that the symbols and writings have a power of their own. Zagan draws a circle for Neffy and explains to her that the circle he just drew can be used for lightning just by channeling mana into it. The person can then expand the power or abilities of the circle by adding more writings to the circle. He demonstrates this, and the circle releases a burst of lightning, scaring Neffy. He then tells him that anyone can use the circle that he has created, and this is the reason that he needs to put restrictions on his circles to prevent anyone else from accessing it. Neffy then points out her observation of how Zagan is just adding symbols to the outside of the circle and not inside. Zagan is impressed that she notices this. He tells her that she cannot add circles to the inside, but she can create another circle inside and start the sequence all over. With everything that Neffy has learned, she realizes that it is easy for someone else to override another sorcerer's circle, and he says yes. However, this is still theoretical, because any sorcerer who can do this is considered the most powerful sorcerer. There have only been studies about this and not anything practical. Neffy seems to understand what sorcery is, and she asks Zagan if anyone can practice sorcery if they are able to draw the right symbols, to which he says yes. The two continue to discuss, and in the process, Zagan teases her. She seems to like this, and Zagan notices. She then asks Zagan what she plans to do with the incredible power that he has, but Zagan finds it hard to answer. Neffy tells him not to worry about it if it feels like she is invading her privacy, to which he says no. He is having difficulties answering the question because he has never thought about it. The only reason he basically can come up with is that he has all the powers so he can survive. Neffy doesn't know what he meant by this, and Zagan decides to explain to her. Apparently, he was no one when he was younger, and he had to steal just so he could survive. He did this and managed to avoid being killed, but one day he was captured by a sorcerer. He was meant to be a sacrifice, but he somehow managed to turn it around before he was terminated, and this is when he realized that immortality is the key. Neffy then says she has never practiced or done sorcery before. Zagan walks close to her, and as he is about to tell her something about sorcery, Zagan feels the shock that someone has tripped the barrier sensor he put around the castle. Zagan immediately gets ready and he tells Neffy to prepare food because they have visitors. Neffy asks what the quantity of food should be, and he says for just 2 people. He intends to put the intruders in their place in no time and return to eat. It turns out that the intruder is Chastille and her men. The group has been walking around in circles, but when Chastille notices this, she cuts down the barrier with her seemingly powerful sword. At the same time, Zagan shows up, asking the knights what the church wants with him. He sees the sword that is with Chastille, and he recognizes it as one of the 12 swords that is known as the Sacred Swords. This is a powerful sword, but it surprises Zagan more that a young girl like Zagan is wielding the sword. Zagan looks closely and realizes that Chastille is the girl he saved some days back. He starts to regret his actions and says he never would have let her go if he knew that the girl was an angelic knight. Zagan tells the guys to leave because he has better things to do. He tries to shake them off with a spell, but one of the knights blocks the attack with his shield. Another knight comes charging toward him but easily punches the guy backward. Another one gets angry at this and comes running toward Zagan even though Chastil prohibits it. Zagan easily breaks the guy's sword and knocks him to the ground. He then steps on the guy's head, using this as a warning to others. Nephi then drops her sword, asking Zagan why he would choose to torture the guy instead of just terminating him. Zagan then lets her know that this is the most effective way to stop the church from coming after him. If he terminates the entire squad, the church is just going to send more people to come after him. However, causing them pain will live in their hearts, and they will be able to spread this to others so as to stop them from being a victim of the pain that they suffered. Upon hearing this, Chastil pulls out her sword and comes after Zagan. Zagan realizes that the girl is probably using his reluctance to terminate someone against him. Zagan tries to block the attack with a spell, but Chastil easily breaks through it. Even with this, Zagan still doesn't feel the need to attack the girl, and this frustrates her even more. Chastil is even frustrated that the guy is not attacking her, and he lets her know that he is not the type to hurt women. Chastil then asks him why he is using sorcery if he knows that he is a good person. This forces Zagan to ask her if using sorcery is a sin. The fight between the two continues, and Chastil gets even more serious than before. Zagan tries grabbing her sword, but this only burns his hand. She manages to push Zagan to a tree, and this is when Zagan realizes that he needs to terminate the girl. He is thinking of doing this when Chastil gets close to him and tells him to forget his life as a sorcerer. She tells him that the church will not stop haunting him and suggests that leaving sorcery is the best way to get out of the situation. She tells Zagan that she can see mercy in his eyes, even though he is pretending to be someone cruel. On top of this, he was the one who saved her, and this is the reason Chastil is giving him this offer. Zagan realizes that Chastil is risking a lot to be giving him this type of offer. Zagan is considering this when Nephi runs out of the castle to check on Zagan. Zagan tells Nephi to stay back, but one of the knights goes after Nephi. He throws his spear at the girl, but Zagan manages to get there just in time, and the spear pierces his hand instead of hitting Nephi. Nephi gets worried about Zagan, and Zagan is about to tell her that she should not be when he feels a strange power. At the same time, the forest starts to change, leaving the knights in confusion. Nephi stands up and her eyes start to glow. She talks about punishing the knights for hurting her master. Roots start to grow out of the ground and the culprit tries to run away. Nephi grabs her with one of the roots and is about to terminate her when Zagan stops her, telling her that it is enough already. Zagan looks around and realizes the kind of power that Nephi actually wields. Seeing this, the angelic knights withdraw, and Chastil apologizes for what happened. When Nephi and Zagan return to the castle, he questions Nephi about the type of power that she uses. Nephi says it is not sorcery, and since he doesn't want to stress about it, Zagan says he doesn't really care. However, he realizes that putting it this way is basically telling Nephi that he doesn't care about her. He immediately changes the way he puts it, and lets her know that he means Nephi will always be the same to him, no matter the type of power that she uses. Zagan then asks Nephi if she was scared when the entire saga was taking place. This means so much to Nephi, and she decides to tell Zagan the type of power that she wields. He lets him know that the power is known as mysticism. It appears that Zagan has heard of this before, but doesn't know that the power exists. This is basically a power just like sorcery, that allows the wielder to tap into powers beyond the natural law just by wishing it. He then asks if elves can use powers like that, and she says no. She is able to use the power because she is considered a cursed elf. She remembers how her village people treated her like she was trash. A power like this is not supposed to exist, Nephi says. In fact, children with white hair are not supposed to be born because they are considered to be out of nature. She then explains how her village came under attack one day, and the villagers started begging her to save them with her powers, but she decided not to. She was captured, but the villagers were terminated, most of them. At this moment, she was happy because she hated them because of how they treated her, but it was after everything that she now realized what she had done. After revealing this, Nephi starts apologizing to Zagan, saying he must be disappointed in her, but Zagan says he is not. Zagan lets her know that he would have terminated the entire village and the attackers if it were him. He then explains to her why she needs to be strong and use her strength at the same time. Zagan says he doesn't want to be the weak one, and this is the reason he got stronger and became powerful. Zagan then walks close to her, telling her that she should not beat herself up. He lets her know that he needs her and uses the food as an example for her to know how important she now considers her.